Hey everybody, I'm Jennifer Clark. For those of you who I have not come into contact with, I'm a physician in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and with a couple of colleagues of mine, we created a video back at the early stages of the pandemic called "Be Safe, Not Scared," to help educate the kind of public, particularly our friends and families, about COVID-19. And as we've seen the virus unfold, those same family and friends asked that we revisit the conversation and talk about, now understanding that COVID-19 is going to be a part of our lives for the foreseeable future, how we go about kind of living with it and despite it. So if you haven't seen it yet, here's the initial video, and if you're interested more in the viral part of things and understanding pandemics and epidemics and all of that stuff, that's what's covered in that video. But the big takeaway from Be Safe, Not Scared is that we have a lot of power with kind of living with COVID-19. And so a lot of that has to come with the 5 rules that were laid out. So just real quick, we'll just review those before we get into the next parts of things. So, just know that COVID-19 is actually a fairly wimpy virus, highly infectious. It definitely can spread fairly easy, but it's pretty susceptible to some basic things. The first one is hand hygiene. So, rule number 1 is always know where your hands are. And make sure that they're clean. So, soap and water with a good vigorous scrub for about 20 seconds, or a slathering of at least a 60% alcohol sanitizer will get you taken care of. And so, because the big thing is that, kind of the way most of this virus is spread is by droplets, where you touch your hands on something or someone and then touch your face, particularly your eyes, nose, and mouth. So always know where your hands are. Next thing that obviously leads to don't touch your face. That's like asking a fish not to swim. We as humans touch our face quite frequently. But like I said, it's the primary way things get us infected, kind of mouth, nose, eyes, and so really important thing is obviously keep your hands clean. But when you leave your safe zone, when you leave your house, wear a mask. And I'm not talking the fancy surgical masks or even the N95 masks. I'm just talking about the basic handmade masks. We know that those help not only kind of prevent you from kind of prevent you from touching your face, but also really help you if you happen to be one of those asymptomatic spreaders from, kind of infecting other people. And the rate of infection, particularly if you're with one other person who's wearing a mask, goes down significantly. So wash your hands and, make sure that you have a face covering so that you don't touch your face and help prevent the spread of the infection from you to others. The other way that this helps is to keep your distance. Social distancing has been a big part of our lives for the last couple of months. That 6-foot bubble has become kind of our new comfort zone. So don't be afraid, to go out. Just be aware of how close you are to someone else, and really, really keep your distance. The other piece, particularly as we move into this kind of newer stage of the viral illness, is really, we know that gatherings, particularly gatherings over 10 people that are unfamiliar with each other, tend to start, kind of areas of spreading. So, kind of really think about gathering, and is it really, really necessary? And we'll get into that in a little bit. The other thing is circle up. In the Midwest, we talk about circling the wagon so that we can protect all of those that are part of our tribe. And so that really means your home. You really want to protect your home and what we call your isolation group. So the people that you spend the most time with, that's usually the people that live in your home or in your home on a day-to-day basis. And so really keeping that place safe. So again, this comes to gatherings, really the more people you have in your house, the higher risk that people are to get infected. And we actually know that when people spend a lot of time in a confined period, in a confined space, we know that that's, kind of where infections occur, and many of them occur in families. And so really, keeping your distance, making sure that, kind of you aren't exposing yourself or exposing your house and your household to others. So again, circle the wagons, and particularly for those of you who have vulnerable people in your home, so people over the age of 65 or people who have medical problems. And then the last rule is really communicate. We know that for about 80% of us will either not have any symptoms or minimal symptoms should we get infected with COVID-19, viral illness or something along those lines. There's about a 20% chance that should you get the virus, you could have pretty significant symptoms requiring hospitalization and sometimes even ICU care. And so we need to have those conversations, those difficult conversations about worst case scenario. In case I get sick, what should we do? What's important to you? The other big thing that we're starting to see now is the, kind of the psychological, the financial effects of this illness, and they're starting to kind of mount. And so, again, communication is extremely important. And if you need help, you got to ask for it. So like I said, we have a lot of power in this. And, if you follow the 5 rules, most of the time things should be just fine. So wash your hands, wash your, kind of watch out for your face. So wear a face mask and be conscious of touching your face. Keep your distance, that 6-foot bubble. Circle up, keep your environment, kind of in your isolation group protected, and then communicate. So if you don't remember anything else, those 5 rules will kind of get you through most things. But what do we know now about COVID-19? In our last conversation, we talked about the kind of, the science and things behind it, kind of what has our experience been and what do we know now? We know that social distancing actually works, with our kids still being out of school and the limiting of gatherings. We've seen a significant reduction in what we call flattening the curve. It's not that we've eliminated the infection risk. Let me get this clear. The infection risk is the same. We'll talk about that in a second. We've just spread the number of infections over a period of time rather than that big, kind of spike like we saw in New York and things like that. So, social distancing really works in that it spreads the infection over. And if you add the hand hygiene we talked about, the screening that many of you may be experiencing, whether it's, having symptoms of fever, cough, shortness of breath, and wearing a mask, has really helped with, kind of the spread, the rapid spread of this infection. So it works. And so the more we can be conscious of it, the better. There's been some concerns about what we saw over the Memorial Day weekend, and then most recently with the protests, that large gatherings will likely be kind of what we call super spreading events. And so we all need to, when possible, practice distancing, hygiene, screening, and masks. Like I said, the infection risk is still the same. Social distancing bought us time to do work on the FDA approved treatment, which we still don't have yet, and a vaccine. We also, with that time, again, spread out the number of infections, expanded our healthcare capacity should there come a time where we have another surge, and there's a concern that we may see that in the fall as our environment changes and as we move more indoors. And it also helped us figure out different ways to interact, and so that we can kind of safely socialize. And like I said, we'll be living with COVID for the foreseeable future. So, kind of what can we do to live with and despite this disease? So you have the 5 rules we talked about. You wash your hands, don't touch your face, and wear a mask. You keep your distance, you circle up, and you communicate. And should there come a time where you decide to leave that safe zone, decide to leave the wagon circle, there's 5 questions you need to ask yourself to kind of decide, okay, what is my risk? And it's different for everybody. Someone who's over the age of 65 with heart disease or lung disease or a history of cancer, or someone who's younger and may have those diseases as well, are at much higher risk of being in that 20% of having severe disease. So depending on where you are in that continuum, kind of these 5 questions are going to be much more important for you than, let's say the 25-year-old relatively healthy student. So these are the 5 questions. So first question before you decide to leave your safe zone is my symptom screen negative? Meaning I have no fever, I have no cough, I have no shortness of breath, I don't have any kind of viral illness like malaise or aches and pains. If you are experiencing any sort of symptoms that are like that, do not leave your home. That means you may have the disease process. 2, okay, let's say I have no symptoms, feeling great. Then the next question is my exit really necessary? Is this trip really necessary? Do I need to go out to a restaurant and eat indoors, or is there a better option? Is it, can I get takeout is kind of the big thing. Do I need to go to the big party? Do I need to do those things? You need to ask those questions. Is it really absolutely necessary? COVID and its impact is not going to be with us forever. It's only going to be with us for a short period of time. Unfortunately, people have a hard time with weeks, months, and maybe a year or two relative to days and weeks. And so we're moving into a longer bit of time. And that's the part people are struggling with. But that's the question you have to ask is it really necessary, or do I, can we do this a different way? The third question then is, I'm ready to go out. Will I be spending more than 10 minutes with other people? And I'm not talking about the passing in the grocery store. We actually know that that's low risk. It's the same, kind of people in a confined space for more than about 10 minutes. So that would be sitting at a dinner table in a restaurant. That would be gathering with friends or family. And so you need to know that, if it's more than 10 minutes, that's you're putting yourself in the risk zone. And so the next question is, okay, well, is my destination then spacious and well ventilated? So, you have these 10, kind of other people, hopefully less than 10, that you're going to be spending less than 10 minutes with. But if you need to spend more than 10 minutes, let's say you're sitting down for dinner and these people are fairly good, they've been practicing social distancing, you don't want to be around people aren't practicing that or don't know that, then you have to ask the question, is the environment that I'm going to be in spacious and well ventilated? It's, again, confined spaces with people that may have a potential for, kind of infection for more than 10 minutes. That's kind of the big things you need to be thinking about. And then lastly, does my destination practice hygiene, screening, distancing, and masking? Are the employees kind of able to move through? Is there cleaning being done? And so those are the big kind of ideas that you need to think about. And if you are at high risk, and you answer no to any of these questions, you really need to stay home. And the more you answer no to these questions, the more risk you are bringing upon yourself. And so these are the kind of the 5 big ones again. So is my symptom screen negative? If it's negative, great. That means you're not infectious to others. 2, is my exit really necessary? Can we do this some other way? 3, am I spending more than 10 minutes with other people that I may or may not know what their social distancing practices have been? You're more safer with people that practice relative to those that you don't. Obviously, is the destination spacious and well ventilated? Kind of the theory is outdoor is much better than indoor. And then 5, is my destination practicing really good hygiene? So again, cleaning not only my hands, but the surfaces, screening, distancing, and masking. And like I said, if the more no's you got, the higher risk that you have. Some really good readings and links are there for you should you want to kind of peruse those. They're all pretty good scientific, combination of scientific and lay articles. So again, 5 rules, 5 questions. A physician colleague of mine, Don Berwick, he's a pediatrician and the former director for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, came out with an article called Choices for the New Normal, particularly how healthcare, is going to be delivered. But one quote that really stuck with me and want to impart on you is that fate will not create the new normal, because life is going to be very different from here on out, irregardless of when there comes a time where COVID has a treatable form or has a vaccine. But kind of our new normal is can't be left up to fate. It's about our choices. So you have choices every single day with regards to how to live with this, particularly keeping yourself and those you love safe. So just remember, practice the 5 rules. Again, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and wear a mask. Keep your distance, kind of that 6-foot bubble. Circle up and communicate. And should you decide to go out of that safe zone, you need to ask yourself 5 big questions. Do I have any symptoms? Really, am I feeling sick? If so, then stay home. Is it really necessary that I leave, or can we figure out another way to do this? Am I going to be spending more than 10 minutes with people? And if so, are those people kind of known to socially distance well, or do I have any idea? Is the place that I'm going to well ventilated and spacious? And again, is my destination practicing those things of hygiene, screening, masking, and distancing? And the more you say no, the more you should stay home. So practice the 5 rules, ask the 5 questions, but be safe, not scared. And now I'm asking you, please, to act wise. So with that, here's my contact information. If you want to know more, happy to answer any questions that you have. But like I said, we have a lot of power in this, and we don't have to collapse our entire lives because of this. But we just need to be a little bit smarter, slow things down, practice the 5 rules, ask the 5 questions. And with that, I'll say goodbye, and thanks everyone.